That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. CNN Center.
I'm going to sign, in a few moments, I'll be signing the USA Patriot Improvement and Reauthorization Act. This is a really important piece of legislation. It is a piece of legislation that's vital to win the war on terror and to protect the American people. Yours on September the 11th, 2001. On that morning, we saw clearly the violence and hatred of a new enemy. We saw the terrorists' destructive vision for us when they killed nearly 3,000 men, women, and children. In the face of this ruthless threat, our nation has made a clear choice. We will confront this mortal danger, we will stay on the offensive, and we're not going to wait to be attacked again.
That means no more illegal wiretapping of American citizens. No more national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime. No more tracking citizens who do nothing more than protest a misguided war. No more ignoring the law when it is inconvenient. That is not who we are. And it's not what is necessary to defeat the terrorists. The FISA court works. The separation of powers works. Our Constitution works. We will again set an example for the world that the law is not subject to the whims of stubborn rulers and that justice is not arbitrary. This administration acts like violating civil liberties is the way to enhance our security. It is not. There are no shortcuts to protecting America.
President Bush and his administration implemented the USA Patriot Act within 2 months of the 9/11 attacks. This was to ensure the safety of the American people who were skeptical about America's national security. Debates began about how the Patriot Act went against our Constitution, but Bush thought it was necessary to bolster the Patriot Act, not lessen it. President Obama, on the other hand, argued the fact that it was an either-or situation. Either we protect the people from terror or protect the people's most cherished principles, which are our civil liberties. Even after the revisions of the Patriot Act, Obama still thought it should be revised even more to protect the civil liberties of the American people. However, just recently, Obama signed a 1-year extension of 3 sections of the USA Patriot Act. These revisions done by Obama have no relation to what he promised the American people before being elected because it lessens the civil liberties of the American people even more.
America faced terrorist threats that forced the government to pass the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the Patriot Act. Together, these acts lessen the restrictions on federal agents' ability to access previously private information, such as email, phone calls, internet communication, wiretaps, and even recording face-to-face meetings. It can be interpreted as either an encroachment on civil liberties or protecting the well-being of our country and citizens. FISA allows for the physical and electronic surveillance in order to collect crucial foreign intelligence. The Patriot Act builds upon the foundations of FISA by easing the restrictions on intelligence gathering even within our own country.
There are 3 main government agencies that protect America from foreign and domestic threats through different types of technologies that average citizens have access to: the FBI, NSA, and DHS. The FBI and NSA have been involved with email surveillance through the Carnivore and NARS Insight systems. These systems have evolved from simple internet trackers to email monitoring systems with access to millions of citizens' information due to the increased national security measures both before and after 9/11. NSA has also been involved with warrantless wiretapping. George W. Bush secretly gave NSA power to gather phone records and other information of millions of citizens soon after 9/11. The TSA sector of the Department of Homeland Security now has access to full body scanners in order to better detect threats to airplane travelers. However, the travelers lose the privacy to their own bodies.
But the one thing that's very consistent and that goes on worldwide is the fact that any terrorist has to communicate in order to plan an attack. And in order to do that, they have to use the internet, they have to use cell phones, they have to use satellite phones, or they have to use other forms of some form of digital communication to communicate. And so as a result of that, the government has been and was and will probably continue to be intercepting all communications around the world, basically. And so, and the primary agency for that is the National Security Agency, the NSA. And what they do is they capture everything that goes on throughout the world. And then they filter it down even further and to websites and selected areas where they pay more attention to the information.
As a country, we're leaning towards national security. Obama has lately passed a revision of the Patriot Act, and now it seems like our country is leaning towards national security. Lately, we have experienced more email surveillance than ever before, and it doesn't seem like Obama is willing to stop.
So I feel like as a country, we could be going in two directions. We could be going to the civil liberties side, or we could be going to the national security side. It all depends on the president at that time. We could go in the national security side, which would mean making the Patriot Act, email surveillance, wiretapping more strict. But that would mean reducing our civil liberties. And then we could also go in the civil liberties side, increase our civil liberties as American people. But that would mean lessening the national security level and could possibly risk another attack on America.
If you were to give them advice on this issue, would you tell them anything specifically?
Well, I would tell them to look at history a little bit. If you think about it, think about the incarceration of the Japanese Americans in World War II and how that has been looked back on and portrayed. But I think also it's a new world, and I would give the courts the opportunity to let that play out and let that be decided on who crossed the boundary and where was the boundary crossed. And that just means having quality people look at the issues. And I'm not sure I could recommend a change. Would I do more? Maybe in some areas. Would I do less? Maybe in some. But the people calling balls and strikes, if you have confidence in those people, then you let them call balls and strikes at the outset and let the court decide if those balls and strikes were right. Sort of like the instant replay we have in football and baseball. You can count on our balance of power to work, and so the courts ultimately will step in. They are involved in national security issues now with the court that deals with wiretaps and wiretap authorizations. So there is a balance there. It can easily swing too far one way or the other, but as long as it's there, I have confidence that they'll come out to the right result sooner or later.
As a country, we feel that we should be heading in a balanced direction, which means thinking about both national security and civil liberties of the American people. But we should lean in a direction of civil liberties rather than national security. This doesn't mean taking away email surveillance or the Patriot Act, but we should instead revise both of those things and make sure that they fit the criteria of our Constitution. Even though it's really important to protect our country from foreign and domestic threats, it's also really important to keep the people happy and make sure they feel comfortable living in America.